Your body is a historian. It records every heartbreak, every suppressed no, and every moment of shame you've ever experienced. It is stored in the body with each organ holding a specific emotional frequency. Liver is anger, lungs is grief, kidney is fear. Tonight on Thursday Night Live, we're going to explore how we experience disease, how, and actually it's how our bodies is trying to get our attention. So stick around and find out just how and what of our past may be festering beneath the surface. Hello and welcome to Thursday Night Live. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for tuning into the show today. And while you're here, if you're enjoying what you're seeing and enjoying what you're hearing, I hope you will subscribe to this channel and keep following along with every show that I produce. So I wanted to talk today about the nature of disease, and not from a medical point of view per se, but from more of a subtle energy, what I pick up as a medical intuitive point of view. But I need to create some kind of background here. So in my book, there are three kinds of illnesses that we can have. We can have an accident, we break our arm, we fall down and we hurt our back. So that falls into that illness category. Now, there are those that suggest that when something happens to us, when we're walking down the street and we trip on the sidewalk and bang up our knee, that there's this karmic angle to the whole thing. There might be. I really don't investigate that because there's not. I really focus on like this is this lifetime, and so if there's things from a past life that are affecting you, usually there's enough we have to clean up here to not bring that kind of stuff into the story. The second kind of illness that we can have would be something that is viral or bacterial. We get some kind of an infection, we catch a bug, we're around some kind of germ, or maybe even a parasite. And so that is a category of disease. And it's interesting because it is only that category of disease that modern medicine can actually fix. They can give you an antibiotic, they can give you an antiparasitic, and they can cure. They can cure those. They can't cure anything else, but they can cure those. And then the third classification, these aren't my classifications, these are theirs, is chronic disease. So when we're talking about things like cancer or diabetes or blood pressure, they are something that occur in the body, but they take a while to develop. I mean, when you fall and you hurt your leg, you fall and hurt your leg. If you have some kind of a bug, a viral or bacterial infection, it's like it comes up in 2 or 3 days and then it'll go away, but it's very acute in that period of time. But when you're talking about a chronic disease, we're talking about something that takes time to develop, and in the same breath takes time to get rid of it, if you ever get rid of it. But to get rid of it, usually there's things that you have to do to put it on the mend. And I'm going to also make I have two other caveats. One is the concept of a genetic disorder. And so there are some people that think that having a genetic disorder like sickle cell anemia or non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, is that a disease? I don't know. That might be a cancer. I might be messing that up. But anyway, a genetic disorder where you are born that way, That's not a disease. It means that there's something broken in your chromosomes and broken in your DNA, that it was there from the moment you were born. It was there while you were in utero. And, they can treat it, but they can't make it go away, at least not at this point in time. So I just am making that clarification. So if you're thinking that, that is not considered a disease, that's considered a genetic disorder. But I do add to my categories, even though this is not on the medical establishment list, and that is the concept of neglect. And I feel like, and I'm just going on a little bit of a tangent here, I feel like people really neglect themselves. They neglect their health, and then they wonder why they get sick. Okay, so there's the psychospiritual aspect of why we get sick, which is what I'm going to get into. But then there's the neglect part. So if you're eating McDonald's every day and then you go to Pizza Hut and get some fried chicken, and you don't exercise, and you just don't take care of your body, it is going to break down. And so while they don't talk about it as a disease, but it underlies a lot of diseases, or can greatly, if you make lifestyle changes, can greatly improve the outcome of something that might be manifesting in your body. Okay. So as I just said, chronic disease manifests slowly in the body, and it takes time. And so from my perspective, one of the reasons that we have and experience chronic disease is that we experience some kind of trauma, and I'm using that in a very open and generic way, that slows down our subtle energy. And we've talked about chi and life force energy on this show before. And in health, our energy is supposed to flow into us and flow out of us without being inhibited. And so if, for example, you were told that you were stupid, or you were made to feel stupid when you were a child, and then you found reasons to see yourself as being stupid, over and over and over and over in your life, it's like that I'm stupid button gets pushed over and over and over again. And each time it's pushed, it slows down the movement of that subtle energy through the body, through the subtle bodies. So that would include the causal body, the mental body, the emotional body, the etheric body, until it finally ends up manifesting in the physical body. And so it might be that somebody says that you're stupid. Like when you're 3 years old, someone says that you're stupid, and now you're like fixated on this. Oh my God, I'm really stupid. And then every time something happens, the first thought that comes into your mind is, oh, well, I did this because I'm stupid. But then after a while, it grows. So that thought starts to grow, and it starts penetrating and moving down into the emotional body, where if something happens and an emotion now is triggering that thought, and so it is again slowing down the movement of that energy through the subtle bodies until it starts to again show up in the physical body. And so the reality is, to me, that disease is our body's way of telling us that there's something deeper going on further up the energy system. And so, when you sit there and you look about something that you could do, if you go to the doctor, they'll say, oh, well, you should just take a pill, or that you should cut it out. There are those that say, well, you should take a supplement, which will help, but it doesn't get rid of the deeper level of issues that are inside the body. And so even if you take the supplements, one, it might back it out of the physical body, but it's still sitting in your energetic body and you're still reacting, you're still triggered, and that thought is still coming up in your life and in your space. And what I have seen in my work is if the person, so let's say they have gallbladder disease. Okay, so gallbladder disease is the emotional energy, the kind of Louise Hay generic emotional energy around that is about planning and your ability to plan. And so there are some people that are great planners, but that get very frustrated when they cannot fulfill their plans. And then there are some people that can't plan to save their lives. And so they end up getting gallstones. Let's just say they get gallstones, and I'm grabbing a lozenge here, guys. And they go to the doctor, and the doctor says, oh, we're going to cut it out. Not saying, oh, you could do a gallbladder cleanse and maybe get rid of those gallstones and then you'd be better. But, they're going to cut it out. But it doesn't fix the issue around planning. And it doesn't fix the issue that's the energetic issue that's going on in the body. And so what I've seen is that issue doesn't go away, but that energy, that trapped energy starts looking for expression somewhere, and it'll actually move into a different organ in the body. And so, it's definitely something to consider, especially if you're looking for surgery, is what all is going on, because it doesn't go away. And it's really interesting because I'll work with people and I'll be talking about some organ, like the gallbladder. I mean, that's a pretty common one people have removed. And I'll be like making all this commentary about what's going on in their lives and this and that. And then they'll say, well, I don't have a gallbladder. And I'm like, but the energy, that dynamic, that thought and emotion is still there. And so another little tangent here, there are some people that say, or try to minimize what's going on with themselves. And they say, well, I have a genetic predisposition, like diabetes runs in the family. And I would like to say, perhaps, just perhaps, there's a behavior or an emotional pattern that the entire family does. And that behavior or viewpoint or belief has been passed down from generation to generation. And is it possible that this is more of a subtle energy issue going on versus something wrong with their DNA? Think about that. So from a medical intuitive perspective, the trapped emotional energy and the limiting beliefs are easy to spot. It's just sitting there in the organ, and I just palpate on. It's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. Well, yeah, when you were 7 or 8, you something happened and it left you in this emotional state. Now, I know I'm doing really good when they start crying. Not that I mean to make them cry, but you're hitting. But it's sitting in the organ, and but these issues that we're experiencing, or if we develop chronic disease, many times I'll say, oh, well, I just get the feeling that, you've been invalidated, and they'll look for like the week before, the month before. They don't really go far back in time, but it's never last week or last year. Usually this energy is very, very old from our formative years. And it's not that we're manifesting the physical disease, but the core of the issue, the core of the belief, the core of the traumatic emotion gets put in place. That energy gets locked in place, and it festers year after year after year. I would say for the most part, and I'm just using this as a generality, that by the time we're 14, if there is going to be a chronic disease manifesting, the seeds have been sown prior to the age of 14. Now, I have seen in some older individuals with issues like betrayal or infidelity or, like physical and emotional abuse in the relationship also coming into that energetic pattern. But that is a less frequent thing, but it's there. So, I mean, it can occur at any point in time. But, usually the seeds are sown when we're young. So you might be wondering, okay, so what can I do? So I'm starting to manifest gallbladder disease, or I'm starting to, have some kind of symptoms, what should I do? And obviously, making lifestyle changes, I'm all about that. But I think first it's getting a general idea of what organ is being affected. So a couple of weeks ago, I spoke about the acupuncture meridians and the organs that they affect and the mental and emotional ties to that. And so either you can look at the old episode or you can go on my website, soulhealer.com, and then under the articles, or just go in the little search thing and type in meridians, and it'll bring up this article and it'll break it down meridian by meridian by meridian, which is tied to each of the organs, so that you can kind of get a general idea of what kind of thoughts and beliefs or behaviors are going on that might be attached to a disease. But another thing that you can do is if you're having stomach issues, or if you're having gallbladder issues, or if you're having, I don't know, chest pain, or heart pain, and you're having anxiety attacks or whatever, put your hand on that organ. If it's like anxiety or angina, put your hand on your heart and ask it, what are you trying to tell me? What do you need? What do I need to know? And then the other question is, are you willing to hear what it has to say? And usually you have to be in a very calm and quiet internal place for that to come up. And be willing to hear what it has to say. And most times we already know the answer. We just don't like it. We don't like the answer that it gives us and choose not to follow the guidance that we receive. Now, if you've been practicing listening, which we talk about on this show all the time, and it's part of your daily life, you can also use that tool to explore your health. You could always reach out to me and let me help you uncover what's going on and what's sitting behind your health concern. I would love to help. So your body is a wise historian, archiving every heartbreak, suppressed emotion, and old wound. While pills, surgeries, and supplements may ease symptoms, they rarely release these trapped frequencies. And so true healing only begins by listening, by quieting the mind, and courageously asking, what are you trying to tell me? And again, if you need help and guidance, please reach out to me at soulhealer.com. That was a good one. All righty. So before I go over and take a look at all the comments and start doing some readings, I just want to give you the lay of the land. And so anyone that's here, if you would like a free on-air psychic reading, all you need to do is go into the chat and say, hey, Dr. Rita, your hair looks great. Can I get a psychic reading? And then you need to pick a card between 1 and 3. And that's how many times I will shuffle on your behalf. But we have some new other options. And here they are. Maybe it'll even work. There we go. Okay, so you can, and that is like so not even the right slide. Okay, not that. No, not that. All right, hang on, guys. 1 second. It's like my computer was just, there we go. They both look the same. So I got myself confused. Okay. And not that one again. This one right there. There we go. Because I look so sparkly in that picture. And so there's a couple of things that you can do. So if you want, you can go to soulhealer.com/live. And so if there's a big old long list of people that are wanting to get readings and you came in a little bit late, one of the things that you can do is you can jump the line. So go to soulhealer.com/live. There's a thing where you can jump the line and I'll get an email and I will do your reading next in sequence. And if you're doing that, just give me a number between 1 and 3 and we will get you up and running. One of the other things you can do is you can ask Dr. Rita, and there's another link for that. And with that, you can ask me a specific question. So instead of just, requesting a 1 through 3, you can say, hey, Dr. Rita, I have this going on. What do you think? And while you're there, if you want to leave a little something in the tip jar, I would love you to death.